think we're going to just make the life of this camera too. All right.
Okay, so this is a lesson on sorting open and closed questions. It's meant to be a standalone, but it could be as an introduction into a longer research process, like methods. So ideally, the students are coming in with like almost full knowledge of the Mayflower Compact and having discussed that in depth in their social studies class. So they're reaching that point where now they're going to start on their research project, so they have like a pretty solid base of information to pull from when it comes to the social studies concepts. Regarding that, the way the classroom is set up is I would have a whiteboard, I'll have it right here for today, and have small work tables that the students have assigned seats at already and they're used to using, and then a little carpeted area for like group discussions. And my lesson is very based in like class discussion and working off of each other's answers and that kind of thing. So we might have difficulty translating that into a lesson today, but we'll do what we can. So I might be calling on you guys. I'll definitely be referring to you guys as though you were the students. So keep that in mind. Did I mention a 45-minute period? And I would have the itinerary up there, but to save time today, I had it printed out for you right here. And with that, I think, and the handout. So those will be at the tables already in front of each seat. There will be the handout, and there will be a strip of paper, and then there will also be enough colored pencils that are red and green for each student at each table. All right, so with that, welcome to the library today, students. Please come in nice and quietly and find your places at the work tables. All right, nice, very good. So I'm so happy to have you all here in the library today. I love seeing all your smiling faces, and I think you guys are so ready to learn today, and that's awesome. Okay, so I've been talking a lot with your social studies teacher, and she tells me that you guys have been talking about the Pilgrims and the Mayflower Compact and all of that good stuff. That is so cool. Have you guys been enjoying that lesson? Yeah, cool. All right. And what kind of things have you been learning? Do you like learning about the Pilgrims? What do you think that you guys could make a similar journey as those Pilgrims did? No, B, I see you shaking your head. I know that sounded like a very, very difficult journey, but I have news for you. Today we are going on a journey. But don't worry, we don't need a boat. We're not gonna go to the ocean. We won't get seasick, don't worry. We're gonna make a journey to research questions. You guys, by the end of today, you are gonna be expert researchers and you're gonna be able to come up with your own research question about the Mayflower Compact and the Pilgrims. All right, you think you're ready for this journey with me? So, to help us out, I charted our course already, so that'll help us a lot. So if we look over here at the itinerary we have on the board, we first, in order to start a trip, we have to know where we've been. So we're gonna do a little activity, and that's gonna be with your handouts in front of you, but don't worry, I'll let you know what to do with those when the time comes. So it's very important that we know where we're going. This is going to be our essential question. This is something that's going to guide us through our whole lesson today, and we're always going to keep it there in the back of our minds. And as you can see on our board here, it's what makes a good research question. Okay? But how do we get there? Don't worry, I've got you covered. I've packed all the provisions. We're going to have a fun class discussion on open and closed questions. Those are going to be very important. Those are some of your vocab words for today. And we're going to do a group activity that I think you guys will really enjoy. And then we're going to have some independent practice. And then it's always really important to know that you've arrived in the right place, because I hear that maybe the Pilgrims didn't even do that. So we're going to be on top of it. So by the end of this, you're going to have a list of open and closed questions that you can refer to. You're going to be able to pair and share with a friend, so that'll be fun and help you guide your information and understanding. And then you're going to walk away with a good research question that you're excited about. Okay? So, you guys think you're ready? I want you to look at the paper in front of you. Okay? So this is a very important document. It's not as important as the Mayflower Compact, but it's still going to be pretty important to us. Now, right now, I just need you to look at that first column. So the one that's on the left, it says what we know. Okay? So I want you to quickly, in about a minute, just write down some things that you know, maybe 3 or 4 facts that you know that you've learned from your social studies teacher already that's about the Mayflower Compact. Maybe about the Pilgrims, maybe about America, finding it, maybe about the government. Just quickly write down just a few quick things that come to mind. Okay, I'm going to give them a few minutes. And then, now we're going to look ahead. So I want you to write down in that next column, what are things that you are hoping to learn? What are things that maybe you still have questions about when it comes to the Mayflower Compact? What are things you still have questions about with the Pilgrims? Just write down some quick things. I'll give you a little bit more time. And remember that these need to be in the form of questions. How did the Pilgrims get here? You guys probably already know that. So maybe write down something that would pique your interest a little bit more. How did they feel on the boat as they were coming here? So then I would give them about 4 minutes to write down. I only need 3 or 4 questions each, so don't worry about that. All right, it looks like you guys are doing a great job. Now what I want you to do is take one of your questions that you wrote down and write it on that slip of paper. And then it doesn't matter which question you choose. It can be any of them. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be your favorite. It could be your favorite. Just write it down, and then you're going to bring it up and put it in our bag of questions, okay? And then when you're done with that, you can come and sit down on our rug here, and we can get started on our class discussion. So then I give them a little bit of time for that. All right. Great job, you guys. Good job. Such good learners. You're just writing so well, so quietly. So it feels like we have a pretty big bag of questions here. But now I'm wondering, how do we sort these questions? How do we know which of these questions will lead to deeper understanding of our topics? Which ones are going to make good research and make for another really fun voyage into the information that we have here at the library? So, in order to do that, I have a quick trick for you. We can actually categorize all of these questions that are in here into 2 categories. And those would be open questions and closed questions. Now, how many of you have heard of open questions? Can I see a raise of hands? Okay, it looks like a few of you have already heard of it. That's awesome. Can somebody who's heard of it please raise your hand if you would like to let me know what makes up an open question? Okay, and then we would have a discussion, and hopefully this would lead to a checklist that I will create now. And might have to do a bit of maneuvering, but based on what the kids give me, maybe give each other as well, we will create a checklist, which will be fun, and the kids will feel like they have played a big part in creating it, which I think will be good and help them retain the memory of it. So far we've decided that open questions are idea questions, okay? We talked about how they have long answers. That's going to be something that's super helpful when we're doing research, because we're not going to be writing a one word paper. We're going to be writing a big one. It could be something that begins with our question words, like how or why. and it's going to require a lot of research. You guys are so clever. You know so much. You're teaching me how to do this. All right, so then moving along, who's heard of closed questions? Yeah, looks like the same people have heard of open questions, have heard of closed questions. Maybe we could start a little discussion. What does that bring to mind? Why would you say that you know this? So then into a discussion, and I'm hoping that we can get a little bit deeper. So like when somebody says like yes or no, I can say, why would you say that? Or could you give me an example of a yes or no question? Something just to like pull that out of them and really make sure that everybody's understanding and offer the students a way of understanding in their own words too. So you guys came up with that closed questions are a fact, that they have short answers, that they can be answered with yes or no, perhaps. They might be answered with yes or no, but they could have other answers. They could begin with other question words such as who, what, where, or when. And they are going to not take a lot of research. So maybe like, yeah, not much research. Okay, so as I said before, a lot of instruction will be happening in a discussion-based setting. All right, you guys, so now that we came up with this really great list, I'm wondering, can I get a thumbs up if you feel like you're kind of understanding what's going on here? Nice, and a thumbs down if you're still having a little bit of trouble. Well, that's all right if you're having a little bit of trouble, because we have a great activity that I think is going to help you understand a little bit better, and it's going to help you guys who think you know have a little more practice in it, okay? So, at the beginning of class, you remember we put in our questions into our bag of questions. So could I get a volunteer to come up here and read one of the questions out loud to their class? B, will you please come up to the front? Thank you. So guys, what we're going to do, everybody wants to make sure we have good listening ears, because B here is going to read us a question, and then we're going to vote on if we think it's a closed question or an open question. And a good way to remember which we're looking for is we have closed means stop, because you stop right there. There's not much more research you can do. Open is green. That means go. It means let's do this research process together. Let's jump on that ship and sail to the land of discovery, right? All right, B.
How did the Native Americans feel about the Mayflower Compact?
So, how many of us think that this is a closed question? And how many of us think this is an open question? Well, let's check our checklist over here. Is this question an idea? Yeah? Cool. Do you think that it would require a long answer to understand this question? I think so too. Does it begin with how or why? All right. And will it require a lot of research? All right, I think you guys were right. We have all our checks here, so I think we can rule out it's not a close. Very good, B. I love that, taking initiative. That's great. Okay, great job. So we would continue doing this activity until we either run out of questions or run out of time, or if it appears that student understanding is happening, and kids are getting bored with it, perhaps. Although it's so fun, I don't see how they would. But okay, you guys, that was so fun. You guys are really becoming great researchers. Can I get a thumbs up if we're understanding, or a thumbs down if we're still having trouble with this? awesome. Okay, it looks like we're doing great. But you know, there's always room to learn more. So right now, I'm gonna have you guys refer back to that document that we looked at the beginning of class where you wrote down all of your questions, where these awesome questions came from. And now, I think it's time for you to put what you've learned to the test. So, everybody, oh shoot, I forgot to have them go back to there. Okay, so before this happens, after the activity, I would ideally be like, all right, so if we could all get up quietly and go back to our assigned seats where we have our very important document waiting for us, we're gonna look to that and we're gonna look over some of those questions that we created at the beginning of class. So, now, what I want you to do is, I'm sure you see there's some green and red colored pencils at the table. So I want you to look at your page and I want you to circle the questions that you think are closed with a red. And I want you to look at the questions you think are open and circle them with a green. And you know, if you're having trouble remembering, we have our handy dandy checklist that you guys all made right up here. And so you can look to that if you're getting a little confused, or maybe you just want to make sure that you chose the right one. And also we wrote it in green and red, which is awesome because that corresponds with what colored pencils you need to be using as well. And when you're done with that, I would love if you could turn to your neighbor just so we can check our understanding and kind of discuss a little bit more about maybe your list was all closed questions. That's okay. Maybe your partner has some open questions that you guys could talk about. Together, you could develop a new open question, or maybe on your own during our lesson you started thinking about an open question that really interests you. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to circle